Edinburgh Fringe 2019 podcast. Yay! I'm very proud that we've done 3. And for this episode, we have the wonderful Emily and Charlotte. Emily and Charlotte, would you like to introduce yourselves?
Hi, I'm Emily Aboud. I'm a Trinidadian theatre director and writer and sometimes drag king on the side, but I mostly direct stuff.
And I'm Charlotte Dowding. I'm one of the actors in Emily Aboud's show, Splintered on Fringe. Yeah.
And we're both she/her audience.
Cool, thank you very much.
Splintered. So we are here today to talk about Splintered because not only have we been very excited for it in the lead up to Fringe, but we got to see it the other night and it did not disappoint. Well done to the entire team. So you're on at Bedlam. Also, you get the amazing privilege of having a fucking huge stage.
Yeah, Bedlam is honestly, for a first time company, we're so blessed to be at Bedlam. It's insanity to us that we get that massive stage. Also, like, I'm just going straight in.
Yeah.
I went to uni here as well, so like I've directed at Bedlam before plenty times. I know the rig off heart. It's right in the middle of Fringe. I'm a bit of a dick about tech, as my lighting designer is aware. So like it's very fun for me to just be like, that spot's wrong. We need to change the light, and we have changed the light because it's Bedlam, and we're familiar with the rig. It's really good. It's sick.
That's really nice to hear because I feel like often companies that come to Edinburgh probably, especially like emerging companies, probably don't want to do things in terms of like having lots of like intense lighting and stuff because they just want to keep it simple, like maybe not try and stress themselves out for when they get up here. But I really enjoy that you're like, no, I know what I want, and like I feel like I have the confidence to change it if I need to.
Oh, I change it all the time. Charlotte can't
100%.
But it's fine now. We're well blessed to be Bedlam because it was just like one of those weird things that I really wanted to do this show, but I was like, I don't want to put it at the big 4. You know what I mean? I don't think it's right for Summerhall because I don't think I need as a company Lagahoo Productions, and I'll talk about Lagahoo later. But like Summerhall didn't feel right, Assembly didn't feel right. We weren't funny enough for Underbelly. We just didn't have a name behind us, and I didn't want to just be flowering from scratch in a venue that kind of doesn't care because they've got so much other shit on. So yeah, I remember ringing up Angela, who was in her first year when I was in my 4th, and I was just like, you're programming director of Bedlam Fringe, like, here is the vaguest idea of what I would like to do at Fringe in 8 months' time. And she's like, great, sure. And I was like, do you want a script extract? I can write something. She's like, no, cool, sounds good.
Amazing.
Trusted you.
Thank God, she's crazy.
They knew your work. They knew your work.
She's crazy, yeah.
So when you had that gem of an idea that you were describing, what was it?
So there's just like so many things at play. I just feel like in my own practice as a director, I realized that like there was no way for me to make the work that I was interested in seeing. I mean, see the work that I was interested in seeing it, unless I was making it. And it was just like a combination of many different things because I really wanted to make a Caribbean show that was political and that was like educating a British population on something because, you know, I worked on a small place at the Gate and that was very good. It was a Caribbean show and it was about, you know, colonialism and capitalism. It was fantastic. So I was quite inspired by doing that. And then also just like as a drag king, I just knew hands down, no offense to the entirety of the Fringe, but there is no show at the Fringe that I will enjoy more than a St. Vincent concert or a King Princess concert or a David Byrne concert or a Janelle Monáe concert, genuinely. And I just realized, or like a cabaret half the time, and I realized that like as an art form, concerts and cabarets, at least personally for me, was so much more engaging because you are meant to be engaged and you like the audience is there for a reason and you have a say and you feel more like you're in a community space as opposed to like sat in some stiff lift.
Hello, we are here for our third Edinburgh
so yeah, it's very long-winded, but I just was really interested in cabaret as an art form and like
very
piece
proud
that
that we've
felt
done
really
this
live and
episode,
really
we have the
responsive
wonderful
and
Emily
really
and
immediate,
Charlotte.
but it was also
Emily
very,
and
very
Charlotte, would you
funny
like to
and
introduce yourselves?
very, very Caribbean.
Hi, I'm
So
Emily Aboud.
settled
I'm
on
Trinidadian,
interviewing people,
theatre
interviewing
director,
queer people from Trinidad and
writer,
Tobago to
sometimes
see
drag king
if
on
their
the
experience was
side, but
similar to
I'm also
mine,
directing stuff.
and making a show about
And I'm
what
Charlotte
it means to
Dowding,
be
I'm one of the
queer
actors
in a a country that, at least for me growing up there, seems queer as hell. Like Carnival was the gayest thing ever, but like the fact that I didn't realise I was into girls for so long was because
Splintered. So we are here today to talk about Splintered because not only have we been very excited for it in the lead up to Fringe, but we got to see it the other night and it did not disappoint. Well done to the entire team. So you're on at Bedlam. Also, you get the amazing privilege of having a fucking huge stage.
Yeah, Bedlam is honestly the
thing is, I think there's universal queer rites of passage, and like everyone had like kind of a horrific coming out,
also, like,
and everyone had like being in love with the street best friend, and there's just all these tropes that kept coming up. And like we were doing workshops in London, so we did a couple in Peckham, we did a couple at the Bush Theatre, and like all this stuff I thought that was so Caribbean. It's just like universal. Everyone had a ridiculous coming out, and everyone had like the trauma of coming out is horrible. But then what was interesting was, and I don't even know if it's interesting. It's just like
that's really nice to hear because I feel like often companies that come to Edinburgh probably, especially like emerging companies, probably don't want to do things in terms of like having lots of like intense lighting and stuff. Because they just want to keep it simple, like maybe not try and stress themselves out when they get up here. But I really enjoy that you're like, no, I know what I want, and like I feel like I have the confidence to change it if I need to.
What was hard to deal with is the fact that like the people I was trying to get in contact to interview, some of them just said no because one, it was just too traumatic, and some of them like I physically could not meet because like their parents were like, so I interviewed this woman called Hayley, who's a trans woman, and has to, I mean, I don't want to bust her files, but like, well, you don't know her last names, but she could only speak to me in voice notes when her parents were in her house. So like, yeah, it was like a combination of like wishing I could have interviewed so much more people, but knowing that like that in itself is kind of outing. So it's just like just mad, like talking to some of the queer people that I know who are out and privileged enough to be out, and then realizing that I'm not actually talking about to all the queer people because I'm not really be out. So just sort of balancing that was interesting.
A script extract, I can write something.
Amazing.
Did you?
Thank God, she's crazy.
They do your work. They do your work. So when you had that genuine idea, what was it?
I found it really interesting because I think when we first came into the room, there wasn't like the whole script wasn't there yet. So it's just bits of it, and I was like, well, this is going to be fun because I know what Emily's like. So you know what I was getting myself in for. And it was, I knew we were going to be like playing around with stuff and whatnot, and it was really interesting to read and see the bits which like I relate to as well. But I feel like I haven't had as traumatic a time as people in the Caribbean, and for me that's really interesting, and I think I've learned so much in this process about it because I lived really openly. And I've had no problems really. Yeah, so it's been a lot of fun kind of playing it and listening to people's stories, and actually like being able to listen to recordings, listening to them saying it like through their voices and things like that. That's been absolutely wonderful.
As an art form, concerts and cabarets, at least personally for me, was so much more engaging because you were meant to be engaged.
I really like that. It just at least personally for me to be like to see that play out, which is like that could play out in any privileged first world kind of country, just two girls in a fete having a good time. But like the fact that it was still dancehall music, I was like, oh, this is what I wish I could have seen when I was like 16. Just like how the dynamics changed depending on if you're like, I mean, dog, even if it was set in Britain and they were using dancehall music, it just means so much more because it's usually like Dancing on My Own by Robin, you know what I mean?
No shade to anyone who uses that song in their show.
Rotterdam is the best show ever,
so
but yeah.
many people.
Yeah.
It's really cool to see like something that you can relate to on one level, but on another level you're learning. I think it's like when I came out of the show, it's like I'm fun, and then I'm learning something new, and then I'm having fun, and then I'm doing both at the same time, fun and learning together.
And he yelled that at me after the show. Like, I'm having fun. I'm learning. Oh my god.
Yeah, I feel like we could do like a graph of like the show and be like, this is the learning part, this is the fun part, this is both.
Yeah.
But how's it been, so developing the show, and I know you developed it through Soho Writers Lab as well, and knowing that you wanted it to come to the Fringe and knowing the audience of the Fringe and knowing, okay, we need to do some educating of the audience here and balancing that for the show.
I feel like in the process of making it, the hardest part has always been making the show that I want to see, but also making the show that the average British person can feasibly see and understand. Because like, again, Charlotte's nodding, because like first drafts of the script, I was like, God, I mean, in my mind, I had people like singing Calypso on stage, and I wanted steel pan, I wanted it to be like, I mean, a show for a Caribbean audience, but then it was just sort of bridging the gap, like, okay, no, this is like, we don't have the rehearsal time for me to suddenly teach everyone how to play steel pan, so that's not gonna happen. And then like also, like making it digestible for British people, because so much of the show is, at least for me, it feels kind of exposition-y, because I have to explain what Carnival is, and I have to explain the importance of satire, and I have to talk about different folklore characters. Whereas like in a dream world, I'm just like, here they are, like let's do a drag act with these folklore characters, boom, done. So it's been real interesting, and also like bridging the gap between making sure that it is Caribbean enough, because I had to take out so much Caribbeanisms to make it more digestible and more like it's fit for British audiences. But then it's just like, where do you draw the line? So my producer Grace, who's wonderful, is a straight white Geordie, and she's amazing. Do not get me wrong, she's like the best producer of the Fringe. And so much time she comes to me like, I don't think anyone's gonna understand this bit. And then it's just for me to decide, either you're right, let's change it, or I don't care if they don't understand, it's not for them. And like that's been a struggle, but like I'm glad it's over basically.
Yeah, I think we had a lot of discussion in the room about that. We're like, what should we keep in like Caribbean wise? We're like, we know we should have this. We had a lot of talks about things which weren't in the script. We were like, why haven't you put that in? That's really interesting. Like that was interesting to us. Audiences are going to find that interesting. You were worried about like too much exposition and things like that.
I really hate exposition.
But then you're like, when you're talking to people who won't know anything about it, then sometimes you are going to need a bit of that, and we can do it in a way which we don't include too much. That's not boring, and we're not just talking at people. But that they have more of an understanding, so they kind of like see where we're coming from.
Does anything spring to mind with that, of like examples that you kind of had to like work on? Or is it like maybe to do with language a bit more?
I think the first one that springs to mind is the geography scene, you know.
Yeah.
Because, so obviously, because I wrote it, and I'm really proud of that scene, because it's really funny. So audience, it's about these two girls and they're studying for geography exams. And every time they're rehearsing like rivers or whatever, and every time like things about deep V-shaped valleys or like curving flow or like, you know, there's like lots of jokes, and then the girl who fancies the other girl hears recordings of that in her head. I'm really proud of it. But there was so much like character decisions that I had made in the writing that I was just surprised that Charlotte and Tash weren't made aware of. Because obviously, why would they? Because they're not Caribbean. I mean, they are Caribbean, but they didn't grow up there. So like all this chat about like, oh yeah, the stakes are really high because they need to get a scholarship because they won't go to uni otherwise. And they're like, wait, what? And I was like, yeah, like, you know, and I spent like half an hour being like, Caribbean people work really hard. Like we have like the best education in the world, if you ask me. So like, yeah, a lot, like I brought in, like with Tash and Charlotte's advice, like we brought in more stuff about scholarships and just like the government feeding program and how you get box lunch and how people study constantly, and like how religion is so ingrained in most colonial schools. Because before it was just like, honestly, could just be read as two people studying geography in anywhere in the world. And Tash and Charlotte were like, a British audience is not going to get, especially if we're not doing the accents anymore, RIP. British audience ain't going to understand. But yeah, so I added a bit more exposition, and I tried to do it in a clever way. But like, I could literally do the original version of the geography scene in Trinidad, and everyone be like, she had to get that scholarship, boy. She had a, oh God, box lunch. I remember box lunch back in the day. Box lunch is the government feeding program.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Actually, that makes me think of, I wonder if you could talk a bit about your own journey with theatre and coming over to the UK initially to study something else, but then you went to study directing.
Yes.
How did that go?
Kind of come full circle right now because I'm back in Edinburgh where I did my degree in something that wasn't theatre. So I did engineering here in the University of Edinburgh, and then I moved to London to do theatre for a master's in theatre directing. And I feel like in the last 3 years it's been real interesting because Trinidad theatre is so brilliant, and I feel like I've had to in Edinburgh being surrounded by white people and surrounded by what classical theatre is, and then even worse in my masters, I didn't fucking know who Ibsen was. Am I allowed to cuss?
Yeah.
I didn't fucking know who Ibsen was or Chekhov. Honestly, did not know who those people were until my masters, and I spent a whole year just feeling kind of shit because everyone's like, oh, you have to do two-handers about two white people talking about their relationship, which is very prominent at the Fringe, by the way. It's very annoying. But because I hate two white people talking about their problems on stage. It's really boring to me. So yeah, I feel like after my masters, I kind of had a bit of a crisis because I'd just been trained in theatre, open quotation marks, but it wasn't interesting to me. We had classes when I was proposing how I would direct Macbeth, and I was like, I don't fucking want to do Macbeth. I don't what is this? What naturalist piece are you gonna do, and approaching the King's Head, and those kind of.
I enjoy how you have a Macbeth reference in your play.
Oh yeah, quite proud of that one. Just sort of as my journey, I reckon, I was so in Trinidad theatre growing up, and then I came to Edinburgh, which is the best city in the world apart from the lack of people of colour, and kind of did a lot of, straight plays. I did Equus, which I loved. I did Pillman, which I loved. And then I came down to London, and it was very much yes, you need to look at classical plays. And then I kind of left my masters, and I had to come back to the Trinidadian way of theatre making, which is so much better, which is so weird and responsive and satirical and tongue-in-cheek and just incorporates so much more. Trinidad is such a musical society, and drumming is integral, whatever, one of them, in storytelling. So much so that drums were banned from plantations because the British people thought that the enslaved were communicating with these drums, but drums are just rhythm and music and costume and all of these things are so important in our storytelling, and I just felt like I'd taken a step away from that to anglicize myself. So I guess Splintered again is kind of me being you know what, I'm not interested in the solo show with a white woman on stage talking about some kind of problem that she's had that a therapist could definitely fix. So why am I watching this? But yeah, sorry.
I feel like I want to go see a bunch of shows with you at the Fringe and get your take on them.
I saw one yesterday that everyone loves, but I just watched a white woman on stage for an hour talk about her problems, which I don't care about, and could easily be solved by a therapist. What? I'm just being a bitch, but I'm just kind of I wouldn't watch a show with somebody with a broken leg complaining about their broken leg. The NHS is free. You can go and fix your. I don't have sympathy for you. Sorry, I'm just bored of that crap. It's not interesting to me. And then you've got audiences full of white people so important to see myself represented on stage. I'm just you've been there, man. You've been represented. This is boring. Sorry. Speaking of excellent shows with white people, Teddy Lamb's show, fantastic. Because at least it's not a cis white person on stage talking about boarding school or something ridiculous. Sorry, I'm being a bit of a bitch.
No, I love it.
I just wanted to go back to, you mentioned accents briefly.
Yes.
Could you, for the listeners, kind of describe your journey with the accent issue in the show? You mentioned accents on stage.
Issues you write
Charlotte, what were your feelings about not doing accents or doing accents? Emily, was that an artistic decision? Was it a practical decision?
I wish it wasn't a decision I had to make, to be honest.
Well, you originally wanted us to do Trinidad accents.
And honestly, I wanted them to do different regions of Trinidad accents. I was like, this is a Syrian Trinidad.
A Jamaican storyline in there as well, right?
Yeah, but we put that in because all of us are Jamaican.
Right.
And I'm not Jamaican.
But yeah, it's very tricky accent as well because all of us have heard Jamaican accents, and until I met Emily, I've never heard a Trinidadian accent before.
And it's ranked like the best accent in the world, worldwide.
By Emily.
Yes, worldwide.
But it's pretty tricky. I mean, don't get me wrong. Have I tried? Yeah, I did try.
Because I remember at the beginning, you're like, I'm going to do Trini accent. I was like, there's absolutely, even if you got trained for 6 months, there's no way you could manage this accent. And then we gave up slightly and went Jamaican.
Yeah, well, I think like with the others, we were like, okay, well, let's try doing Jamaican accents then, because we did want it to kind of we wanted to have the Caribbean feel. It's very important in the piece that is very present.
Yeah.
And we thought that would add to it. That accent would add to it.
It would add to it if it was good.
Yeah. I think the problem was that there wasn't kind of enough time for us to kind of perfect them, and we got to a point where we were like, it's not good enough. People will kind of focus more on the fact that the accents aren't there as opposed to what's going on.
And also, I don't, as a director, I kind of hate to make people do accents anyway, because then they're just like another barrier between the words and their brain, I guess. Because I don't want Charlotte to just be like, I'm Jamaican, right? Think Jamaica, reggae, whatever. You know what I mean? And like, there's all this stuff about how she's meant to pronounce certain things, instead of being like, my objective is to arouse my best friend or whatever. That's not a good objective, but you just kind of get tied up because you don't really focus on the objective because you're too busy, like, your brain's all cloudy figuring out other stuff. You know what I mean? But yeah, there's a great moment when Tash and Charlotte were both like, so Ems, we've been thinking, we don't think that the accents are good enough. I think we should just go back. And I was just like, yeah, I agree. I just didn't want to say it.
But I think it's a really tough decision because I really wanted the accents to be
we all
there.
did, but yeah. The show works wonderfully without it, because then we have that brilliant joke that you and Tash came up with, which is so good.
What's the joke?
Well, we included the whole bit. So Tash does a bit where she acts like she's about to go into the accent, and then I'm like, no, we're not going to do that.
Yeah.
And we felt like we should pop that in.
Yeah, I mean, so much of the show is just like them mucking about, and then they see something funny, and I'm just like, put that in. That was funny. Put that in.
It was literally like that.
Yeah.
Did anything really surprise you from going from maybe kind of on your own writing the show from your own experience to then having actors in the room and being like, oh, like this is going to be different?
Yeah. Like, thing is, writing and directing is very hard if you're doing it like this. It's hard separately and hard at the same time. So like, I knew I didn't want to be like that dickhead writer-director who's just like, you have to say it like this, and this is how I had it in my head. I was just kind of like, this is what I've written, let's play with it and let's see what works. And then it's also like, you know, personally difficult if something doesn't feel like it is working yet. It's like, oh, is the writing bad and I need to change that and I feel really culpable? Or do I just need to direct it better because it fucking works? So like, yeah, I like to think that I harbored quite a collaborative environment. Probably too collaborative, because I was just like, guys, is this shit? Like, let's just try it. Like, maybe it's fun. But they were really wonderful to work with. But so much of the play is just like me walking home, like, late from work or whatever, and being like, oh my God, let me just add that in. So I just added in randomly in the text when they're talking about relatable, gay content.
Oh my God, we keep singing that.
So like, because that was just a complete joke in my head. I was just walking, I was like, but this is some relatable gay content. I was like, ooh, we should have a snap. And then just like, as a complete piss take, I just wrote in the script like, we'll have Cicero, Lipschitz, content. And then there was meant to be like something a bit more serious, talking about what these women we interviewed said when they realised that they were queer. But like, I came in and we did the Cicero Lipschitz and it was so funny. And Tash was just like, should we just do this entire scene like the cell block tango? And I was like, what do you mean? Because we'd like worked on like something quite physical, and it was like, I knew when I was this, and it was like, well, this like physical stuff. And then Tash was like, no, we should do it as the cell block tango. And like within 45 minutes, we'd done a whole routine, and it was amazing, and it was so wonderful.
But that's such a great thing about working with you, and because you were so open to suggestions, I think it was amazing. We could just have all these discussions and ideas, and you'd just be like, yeah, let's try that. Let's try it. Why not? And it was such like a playful atmosphere, the whole rehearsal process, and just
I
like
was so stressed the entire time. I was like, don't show how stressed you are. Let's try it. It's cool. I need to rewrite that bit. It's cool. And then like 3 hours later, I'm like, I need to rewrite that.
Yeah, I don't envy you at all, because the amount of ideas that were thrown in the pot, and then Em's the one who's got to kind of deal with it. Like, oh, what should we use?
And then it's like if somebody's like, oh, that doesn't really work. I don't really like it. I'm just like, okay, but I really like it. So I'm gonna need to convince you now, which is fine. Which is exactly like that's just how you work collaboratively. They should tell you what they like, and they should tell you what they don't like. But then it's just kind of like, okay, so they don't like this, but I'm not getting rid of the priest. There's no way I'm getting rid of the priest, and stuff like that.
Oh, so was
So
there
glad to
tension
do that.
around the priest?
Well, yeah, like rightfully so, because the whole play is so difficult because there's so many cans of worms all the time.
There's a lot of risk, I feel.
There's so many cans of worms because like, I mean, just initially for me, like in the casting, as the women I interviewed weren't all like Black Caribbean women. They were Indian Caribbean women and Syrian Caribbean, like Trinidad is really, really mixed up. So like, just in the casting as well, like just talking about race felt like, I mean, obviously don't always talk about race because it's so important, but like just the difference between actual women we interviewed and then the people on stage, like what's our responsibility there? And then, you know, like there's always the morality around verbatim. Like, you know, I've always probably more guilty than I should feel about the fact that I have genuinely recorded other people's voices. They are not getting paid for this. And then I'm making money off of their stories, and we are essentially telling their stories to a bunch of white people so that they can flog themselves out of like some joyous white guilt that they love. Like, so like there was just so many cans of worms around. And then like initial drafts of the ending, because I literally changed the ending the day that we opened. Sorry guys. But like the initial ending was very much like, oh, homophobia in the Caribbean is bad, but it's bad everywhere. And then like it just felt like a can of worms, because I'm like, I don't want to talk about like homophobia. I mean, homophobia is bad, obviously. But the UK is getting worse and the worldwide is getting worse. But then Caribbean people who saw the previews with that ending were like, it's naive to try and like compare Caribbean homophobia to UK homophobia, because it is not as bad. Like quite categorically not as bad. So just like navigating the cans of worms, being like, okay, so homophobia in the Caribbean really sucks. We're not saying that it's worse than say homophobia in Russia or homophobia in Bhutan or wherever. But like, it's specifically bad for Caribbean people because the culture is so queer, but as long as you're not actually queer. It was just really, really hard to kind of like not open cans of worms, because and also like who we to blame, like who do we blame homophobia on? Because obviously I just want to blame the Britain, but then Tash made a really good point. It was like, well, we don't know if the Caribs and the Arawaks and the Tainos and the Kalanagos and the indigenous Caribbean people were homophobic. We don't know because they're all dead. So cheers, Columbus. But like, you know, it means a lot to say like Britain invented homophobia and they brought it to the Caribbean, because we don't know what was pre that. We know that dancehall is homophobic. We know that religion's homophobic. But then again, there are lots of religions, Christian religions, that aren't homophobic. So it was just like, there was just so many cans of worms of us trying to, you can't just be 1 + 1 = 2. You have to be like, it's very complicated, but here are some acts that we did about it, kind of thing. Oh, it was hard. It is hard.
It was super hard.
So,
we had very lengthy discussions about the ending. But it's always hard to end a play, isn't it? But
yeah, I mean, yeah, in a dream world, the ending is so much more angry, but I was just like, no, it's free. Grace, white Geordie Grace, straight white Geordie Grace, love her, literally fought so hard for a dance thing at the end. She just fought every day for like a month. She's like, Emily, it's 10:30 in Bedlam. People have had a pint. You're doing a fucking Chicago act. Just end it on a high. Please just end it on a high. And every time I was like, no, we should bring someone on stage and make them feel shame. We shouldn't even cry. We should do this. And she's like, just end on a dance. Just please end on, just find a way to end on a dance. And she got what she wanted. So, it's fine. Yeah.
But it's great because I think you wanted a bit of that kind of like carnival spirit within the piece. And so by ending it like that, I feel like it has that, because every time I finish a show, I feel so energized. I'm like, yeah, Yeah.
Mm.
And
You,
like,
you go for it,
I
man.
do,
Every
I
night.
do.
I'm literally, I need to tell Tash and Sana to keep, like, Charlotte goes like 1 foot lower than everyone else, and hands involved and jumping more. It's mad. It's great.
Yeah, but I feel like it is nice for people to feel like that, especially because within the piece we do have some serious things, and they are getting to people because people come up to you afterwards and they talk to you about it. But to make them feel kind of good at the end still,
it's a cheat,
all of that.
It's just a cheat. You just, if you want to make someone happy, you sing them a song, you do a little dance. It's very, you know what I mean? If you want to make somebody cry, lower the lighting, put on some sad music, and like talk about some trauma. Like, we want to liven people up, we put a dance in, we'll figure it out later. This is just me being very cynical about theatre, but whatever.
You mentioned about the responses from the audience. How is it? I know we're like not even a week into the Fringe, but how has it been so far?
It's been real nice that people are saying how much they're learning. And I just find that fascinating because obviously to me, like, this is primary school knowledge of the Caribbean. This is like preschool knowledge of the Caribbean.
Even talking about emancipation and
like preschool, not like talking about enslavement and talking about Carnival and talking about the importance of Lent in Trinidad and Carnival. Like, this is literal preschool stuff for me. Like, everyone's like, oh, I learned so much. I'm like, you do not know anything, because I could sit you down for 3 hours and give you a chat. But yeah, it's just, I mean, it's really nice that people have been saying that they learned a lot, but they also had a lot of fun, because I think the big, as I keep saying, the big problem for me was exposition's really boring and it needs to be interesting, but making sure that they had fun and they learned something is wonderful.
Yeah.
Nice.
No, well, the same really, but it's also nice to hear from people who are Caribbean as well, and that they've enjoyed it as well. And that, okay, some people think there has been too much exposition, but others haven't, and it's hard because you can never really get that balance right. But with the audience we knew we would get at the Fringe, I think it's necessary to have the amount that we do.
Oh yeah, no, it is, of course. The show is very good as where it is.
But it's really nice to hear from them and hear them enjoying it as well.
Yeah.
That was a big, like, yes.
And also, like, because in rehearsals as well, I kept saying, because it's a cabaret, so this, like, it's so dependent on the audience. Like, you know, like, it is a community kind of show. Like, we need the audience to feel like they're involved and their cheers mean something and their moans mean something. So, like, in rehearsals, so many times, I just feel like, guys, they're gonna laugh here. Like, guys, imagine that an audience. There's been so many times I'm like, you need to play more with me. And, like, everyone will be like, it's just you in the room. I'm like, yeah, but it's not gonna be just me. It's gonna be 90 people thirsty for Caribbean stuff. So it's just real nice to just actually let Charlotte, Tash and Sana, like, finally sink their teeth into the script that allows them to play more. So, like, the playfulness is really nice to see, just as a director, just seeing people physically immediately responding in the audience, and then how that informs the rest of the play. It's because it's something you just can't get in rehearsals, because it's just me and Geordie Grace.
It feels like it's very, although you're sat in your seat for the show, like, as an audience member, it feels quite participatory. Like, it feels like you're part of
So it
the
should
show
be. Sure.
as
Theatre should
it's
be.
cabaret. You know, you
Yeah.
can't have that without the audience. And I feel like that impacts on the learning. Like, you learn so much more on a different level when you feel like you're taking part in something, rather than just sitting and listening to a 3-hour lecture.
Exactly.
Like, you're absorbing it on a different level, and you're seeing the complexity of how Carnival and cabaret relate to all this information and how they are interwoven together.
It's so important to engage the audience. Like, my mentor, his name is Wendell Manwaring, and he's a Trinidadian artist, and he taught me everything I know. He's amazing. And I interviewed him for my thesis back in the day, and he said, we talk about Carnival as a theatre art form, and he was actually like, mask can't exist without a spectator. And like that, like, blew my mind, because in Trinidad we call Carnival mass, as in masquerading. So yeah, it was like, mask can't exist without a spectator. I was just like, shit, Carnival cannot exist without a spectator. And like, even if, like, that's why it's so wonderful, because the line between spectator and spectatee is blurring all the time, because everyone's involved, and it's a parade and everyone's watching everyone, and it's fantastic. So I was just kind of like, yo, we need to have a show that, because it can't exist without a spectator, you know what I mean? So nice.
You put on a drag show in Trinidad.
Oh God.
Speaking of spectators, what was the response to that? How did that?
Okay, so
go
audience, I'm from Trinidad and Tobago, and I'm a drag king, and his name is Trinidad and Tobago. And in January of 2019, I did a cabaret. Just because I just made me really sad that I call myself a theatre maker, but I've never made theatre in my adult life for Trinidadians. So I was just like, fuck it, I'll rent out a theatre space that's really cheap. I wasn't planning on making a profit anyway, but we ended up making a profit, which is mad. And I just wanted to I don't know, have a cabaret in Trinidad and make it a feminist and a queer cabaret, an intersectional feminist cabaret. But here's the joke, I couldn't call it that because even my uncles, when I was like, oh yeah, it's a feminist cabaret, my family, they're like, that's sexist, what do you mean? And I was like, oh, I just want to focus on primarily women and non-binary. What's the non-binary? I was like, okay, just non-men performers or queer performers. And they're like, well, that's sexist to me. Like, why are you focusing on woman? That's a sexist thing. And it was just real sad. It made me really sad. It was really annoying to just deal with people who don't consider themselves misogynist, but then they say shit like this and you're like, you are a misogynist. To the point that I had to get out, literally do research to back myself up when they're like, you can't focus on a female majority cabaret lineup because that's sexist. And I'm like, no it isn't, because here are, we've had 25 years of soca monarch, which is a carnival calypso a soca competition, which is a genre of music. Once there's been a female winner. Once. That's 4%. So I literally just be like, statistically actually women need to be raised up a little bit in the arts because XYZ, and queer work is never shown in Trinidad because we're homophobic as fuck, blah 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 blah. And then of course I'm opening a can of worms because the Caribbean is homophobic, but the queer community is the most magical queer community in the world. And I don't want to bash the Caribbean for being homophobic at all, because I'd much rather, I'm really proud, I'm so much more proud to be a queer Trini than a queer anything else. But yes, I did a show in Trinidad, mostly for me to just show everyone my drag king, because I'm very proud of my drag king act, and it is called Trinidad and Tobago, so I might as well do it in Trinidad and Tobago, and it was just really wonderful. It was weird because it was the first time many of the acts had ever been paid for doing an act, and they were they didn't. I literally said from day one, I was like, oh, I'm gonna pay you, and they literally thought I was talking shit until the day of the show. I literally gave them an envelope with 40 quid cash in Trinidad money, 400 GT, and they're like, what? And I was just like, yeah, you just worked for me, thank you, here's some money for it, come around again. So
what kind of acts did you have?
So we had 2 drag kings, including me, 2 drag queens, stand-up comedian who's hilarious called Simi the Trini, she's amazing, and my friend Giovanna who's a singer. So it was many different. It wasn't a queer night. It was just I don't know, just an evening of performance, and it was really lovely. But Trinidad is amazing, because Trini's just come late to everything, and of course I'm a London theatre director, so and I'm also Trini, but I'm kind of I've outgrown this lateness, and I was see you at tech at 6, because I'm a very techie person. So I was just we want these slides, I'm gonna program XYZ. And Charlotte is laughing.
Charlotte's laughing so much
because I am so annoying in tech, but it makes for a great show. And these Trinis literally turned up at 7, half 7.
Oh my God.
I called Simi, who's the stand-up comedian. Thank God she didn't need much tech at all, but I wanted to do levels and stuff on her mic. And I texted her okay, cool, when you turn up? And she's like, what do you mean? I thought I was on at 9. And I was like, the show starts at 8. And I kind of want you here. She's like, oh gosh, I'm an hour away. Okay, I'll get my man to drive me. And I was like, Simi, hurry the So it was real stressful, but it was real nice. But classic Trinidad style. My friend Varun, who's an amazing drag queen, came to do, because he came on time, he was ready to go, came to do his tech run or dress run or whatever, and he brought his friend to help him change into the dress for the quick changes. And then Varun was like, oh, my friend is also does drag sometimes, and I was like, do you want to do an act? And he's like, no, I couldn't. And then he sees Varun do a drag act, and literally comes up to me after, I could still try, I could do a slot there for you. And I was like, boy, come on, man, show anything, let's do it, fine. And we made up an act on the spot, and it's just, Carnival Trinidad is so great. And we sold out, and plenty of people were and people who I would consider kind of, invisibly misogynist and invisibly homophobic, we're still kind of like, oh man, that was great, and you didn't like force it down my throat, which is interesting because I would have loved to force it down their throat, but I was just like, no, it's a cabaret of empowerment, and that's what I called it. Because if I was like, it's feminist, they'd have been like, no, that lesbian thing is too far. But a family member, and I was actually like, you should tell your friends to come, please, family member. And they're on the phone, and they go like, yeah, Emily's doing a kind of like a lesbian cabaret, you should come. I'm not out to this family member, but like the fact that it is promoting women clearly just means that it's a lesbian cabaret. So like, and it was a close family member, it was not pleasant. So yeah, it was hard, but like, I'm going to do it again in September, I can't wait.
Charlotte, have you seen Trinidad and Tobago?
I have.
So many times.
A few times.
Yeah.
You're a fan. I can see by your face, you're like smiling away. Are you a fan?
Yeah, I love it. I love anything that's a bit different, you know. So yeah, it's very enjoyable. And you're doing it on the Fringe,
I do
aren't
it
you?
on Sunday, yeah, late night.
Oh,
Somebody
amazing.
sick.
Where are you doing it?
Bedlam.
Oh, okay.
Literally, Bedlam, they must be so tired of me, because I know everyone there. So Talia, who is in charge of the late night slots, I was just like, book me. And she's like, sure. And I was like, I'll come there, I'll do everything. You just give me a mic and all your regrets.
And the mango. Have you managed to find a mango? I saw you do a panicked tweet about that.
Oh, I didn't see that.
I found
Yeah, to find a mango in Edinburgh.
I was there for 4 years and I never saw any mangoes. So actually, when Talia was like, you need just audience, just you know, a mango is a prominent featured prop in my act. Yeah, but apparently lots of people have been very supportive on Twitter. I think I got like 30 retweets of everyone being like, get Emily a mango.
Everyone knows.
We need the mango, we need to see the mango.
Yeah. So find a mango somewhere. Charlotte found some, but they looked a bit shit.
Yeah, they did look a bit.
Yeah, but it's
You
like,
need it juicy.
Yeah. Because I've done the act before with an M&S mango. Whew, not the one.
Try M&S mango.
Literally, because it was ripe, right? And it was like, but you know, I like, you know, M&S mangoes and Sainsbury's mangoes are kind of like jelly and they don't really juice. So like, there's a bit when I like squeeze the mango all over me and then like no juice came out. It was so embarrassing. But like it was an audience of people who'd seen the act before because it was a really small gig and they all like pissed themselves. So it was really funny because it didn't work. Which is why I love cabaret, Charlotte, because even when something goes wrong, you make a joke out of it. So many times, like they've been like in rehearsals, or I'd be like, if this goes wrong, it's fine. Like just improv it out, just improv your way out. If this doesn't work, it's chill. If you spill it, it's fine. Like
how's that for you, Charlotte?
It's a scary thought, because I'm not used to doing any emceeing or anything like that. But it is kind of fun to know that it's okay to do.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, it is. You know, we get to have a play on stage. You never really know what's going to happen or what's going to come out. Honestly, I'm like, what am I going to say today?
And that's great. I feel like I was too lax almost because I just feel like if it goes wrong, I just indent something. I'll just like make it up. I don't really care. Like just change it, whatever.
But I can't believe you've never done anything like that before watching the show because it's like
so good, right?
you've got such a natural. You should do cabaret, man.
I'm telling you, drag king.
Yeah, do a drag king.
Yeah.
I really want to try that one.
It's so fun, man.
I want to try that at some point.
Oh my
Watch
gosh.
this space.
Highly recommend.
Yeah.
Drag king. Is there anything we wanted to talk about before we move on to recommending shows at the Fringe and feminist faves?
I could talk a bit about slavery.
What do you want our listeners to learn?
What do I want your listeners to learn? So many things. So slavery ended in British colonies in 1833. August 1st, 1833 was when the law was passed. But did the enslaved get free? No. They became free a year later in 1834, which I find interesting because in Britain, if I ask somebody when slavery ended, who actually knows, they'll say 33. Whereas in school, I learned 34 because that's when they actually became liberated. And then there was this bollocks period of this is like literal Britain playing the absolute fucking fool by calling something apprenticeship, which is where technically formally enslaved had to work 3/4 of their hours for their former masters for free because it was apprenticeship. So, and that happened for 4 years, and it was meant to happen for 8 years, but then they were like, actually No, it's meant to happen for 6 years. Slavery was meant to like categorically end and they get de facto emancipation in 1840. But in 1838, there was a peaceful protest in the most wonderful capital city in the world, Port of Spain, Trinidad and Tobago. And the peaceful protest in Trinidad and Tobago made de facto emancipation happen 2 years early. So, thanks. Also, interesting fact, when slavery ended, there were reparations. Don't worry, there were reparations to the slave owners. So that's interesting. Yeah, I'm just going to go on a slavery rant because it really makes me angry. But, like, I think growing up in the Caribbean, there's so much, like, almost neo-colonialism. And I'm talking a lot, like, from a place of privilege because here I am in the UK with gay rights and the NHS bitching about the UK. But, like, growing up, everyone was like, oh, I can't wait to move to London because they have everything good and the streets are so clean and X, Y, Z. But, like, and they have castles and they have, you know, but it's like there are castles because people were enslaved and there was a lot of wealth made out of that. So like, yeah, I just think it really fascinating and complicated, my relationship with this country, because I love being here and making work and being queer here, but like, you know, this is a place that is literally run on blood money. Like, I mean, I'm not to get dramatic, but like, every step I take in London or Edinburgh, I'm like, how many people have died for this place to exist? Yeah, so it's very sad. But then I kind of talk about it in the show as well, how everyone is so obsessed with Caribbean culture. Everyone goes to Notting Hill Carnival, everyone loves Shenseea, everyone loves jerk chicken, like, ooh, everyone's so cool, and like, you know, loves Bob Marley and talks about reggae and shit, but it's just kind of, I don't want to be like, sensationalist about it, but I'm just kind of like, unless your country pays reparations, you are not allowed to enjoy jerk chicken. Or like, I don't know, I just find it really fascinating that they can take the best bits of our culture and then like kind of ignore the fact that our culture, I mean, is there because people were forced to move there in very, very small ships and treated like worse than cattle. So, I don't know, the blood behind colonialism is often forgotten, and it really annoys me. That's what a downer to end a podcast on. But you guys should feel really guilty, because feeling guilty is like such a small thing. I'm asking, just feel a little bit guilty. Mm-hmm. You don't have to stop the NHS. You don't. I just want you to feel a bit. It's a small price to pay, please. You know what I mean? Yes,
I mean they're not going to do anything more than that, are they?
But they're not even doing that. It's just like they're not even doing that, and even Trinidadians have been like, Emily, reparation isn't the answer. I'm just like, why not? But what? Are you kidding? Why not? At least build a hospital for us, for Christ's sake. It's ridiculous, but whatever.
Well, thank you for sharing that with us.
Yeah.
Great.
No, it's good. It's what you want when you ask, is there anything else you'd like to talk about?
Yes.
Yes, this is very important.
Everything becomes a rant about capitalism, as Charlotte can attest. I just go a bit mad on the anti-slavery chat. On the colonialism chat.
Any shows you want to plug at the Fringe?
I do, thank you for asking. So if you're interested in my work, everyone, Mika Johnson is the most amazing performer, and they've written a show called Pink Lemonade, which I directed, which is a fascinating exploration of masculinity through spoken word, movement, some fantastic direction, and relationship. Now, like, I'm real blessed with Mika. They are the best actor I've ever worked with. No, that's a lie. But I mean, it's
Solo
completely
show.
untrue. Yeah, I usually hate solo shows, but this is like, I am so blessed to be on this show, and I'm really proud of Mika. And if you are a Bedlam Theatre podcast fan, you've already listened to Mika have a chat about this show. So I just want to plug that one because I think it's really something very special. Mika's show.
I have a quick question before we move on, actually. I just want to ask, do you have a perceived future for Splintered? Do you know what you want to do with it?
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, so it's quite a big question, but...
Oh man, I mean, honestly, I've learned already so much from Fringe that I want to do it again and get back in the room and make it more this and more this and more this, like just more. And I'd love to have a bit of a run in London. I think it'd be go down really well, like in like Stratford, Brixton, and I think it'd be really, really great to do like the smallest of tours, like in Birmingham and Manchester and like places with Caribbean communities. I think it'd be the smallest thoughts. And some guy from Leicester, some theatre in Leicester was like, do you want to bring Splintered in 2020? And I was like,
Yes.
weird. I know. And like on Twitter as well. I was like, mate, like email me. But fine. Yeah, pretty cool.
Amazing.
Any shows you've seen that you wanted to say you loved, Charlotte?
I'll plug your own show, mate.
I've seen
Charlotte's seen another show as well.
Yeah.
Yesterday I saw Typical.
Oh yeah.
I really loved that. It's a solo show as well, actually. But I mean, I'm really into kind of, you know, true crime and stuff like that. And okay, it's not a true crime piece, but it goes into like the treatment of black men in police custody, which I feel very strongly about. And I think it was done so well. I absolutely loved it because it's you know, you actually feel really good throughout the show. You're giggling away and all that, and then it's like boom, and this is reality because it's based on something that's true, and that's what like I really loved about it. Yeah, I highly recommend.
Where is it on at?
It's in the Pleasance Courtyard.
Oh yeah, okay, cool. Because my friend Anastasia directed it.
Really?
My friend Malika produced it. Yeah.
It's Nouveau Riche, who with the same company who produced Queens of Sheba last year.
Which I
So like strong recommendation for the back of that. Just that company's amazing.
Yeah. Like
Go
Lagahoo at the top. No.
Lagahoo. And
Lagahoo
your other
Productions
show,
is the name of the
Charlotte.
company.
Lagahoo is the name of Emily's production company. And Charlotte's got another show on as well.
Yeah, I'm doing a children's show.
Yes.
I actually love it because I'm doing two things that are so different, but actually both really high in energy. And it's called Girl Scouts versus Aliens. It's super fun. It's just it's a real female power play because there's 4 female scouts who go on their last camp before one of their friends moves back to Australia, and then they encounter an alien, and it's like how they deal with that.
I need to see this show.
What ages is it for?
We've said kind of like 7 to 13.
Right in our range.
My mental age of 13.
Yeah. No, we've had a bunch of adults come, and so like obviously our friends have come and they've actually really enjoyed it. But yeah, it's a feel good show. There's no like harsh feelings at all. It's all about like making people have fun.
Oh, I'm gonna come.
Great. And feminist fave.
So my feminist fave is the Slumflower. I love them, and they have this book called What a Time to Be Alone, which is absolutely brilliant. It just makes you feel so good. It's all about, you know, knowing your worth, knowing that you are enough, and it's done in such it's not cringy at all. It's so well written, and even just listening to the Slumflower speak is just wonderful. She's so articulate and makes you feel so good. She runs this like hashtag Saggy Boobs Matter campaign, which is fabulous. I'm just all for her. Yes, Charlotte.
Great.
I have to say that I overheard somebody in the queue behind me at another venue the other day going, "Have you seen Splintered? Their energy is amazing." And they didn't know you at all. They were just like, the energy. And I can literally, I'm sitting next to Charlotte and I can feel the energy. It's like about
Charlotte's full of
burst out of
it.
the room.
Great.
It's amazing. I love your energy. That's it.
I love you.
That's it.
That's the point I was trying to make there. Feminist fave.
Oh, so many. I'm going to talk about Nailah Blackman, who is, I think she's like 22. She's amazing. She is the granddaughter of the inventor of soca, which is a Caribbean music that I fucking love. Yeah, literally, Charlotte's freaking out. Nailah Blackman is so incredible, and soca music is so male dominated in Trinidad, but she just makes such great music, and it isn't queer, but it kind of feels queer because it's really feminist, and for soca to be feminist is insanity, and she literally just sings just songs that like make you feel so good, and especially like being a woman and like being a woman in control of her sexuality. She manages to just make brilliant carnival music that, you know, because sometimes carnival music is like yell, wind up your waist and jock up, and I do that. I love men telling me what I'm doing, that's a lie. But I love all soca music. But Nailah's is just it bridges the gap between being like sexually empowering without like objectification, and it's fantastic. I thought there was a next soca artist. Shenseea. So Nailah and Shenseea. So Shenseea is a dancehall artist from Jamaica and Nailah is a Trinidadian soca artist. And they always do like songs together. And Shenseea posted on Instagram of her like snogging a girl. And I was like, I know, literally freaked out. Like 10 people messaged me this. So like, I'm hoping it's not like a male gaze thing, but I think it's just like it was legit. It was amazing and she did it anyway, especially as a Jamaican woman. So yeah, the two of them just sing like really amazing songs and they do a lot of collaborations every year that are just like feminist and empowering dancehall and soca and it's magical. And then of course my idol Christine and the Queens is my feminist fave every day because she's an artist and if I could give up Splintered and direct her show I would. Like yeah, her performances are amazing.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. It's been so nice chatting to you.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thanks, it's been nice.
Good luck with the rest of the run. Audiences, go see Splintered. What time are you on?
Every night, Bedlam Theatre, 9:30.
9:30's a good time.
I know, and
Good time
times
for a good
are
time.
£2.50.
And they're gluten-free.
Yeah, £2.50.
It's amazing. It does taste like this, but it's fine.
I actually really liked it.
I thought it was alright.
Yeah.
Refreshing this. Chilled, nice and chilled.
It was £2.50 ain't complaining, you know
Yeah,
what
exactly.
Thank you so much for talking to us.
Thank you. Bye.
I mean? Bye guys.